Hello, I'm Anthony Hughes, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can mix and match different playback templates in order to use specific sound libraries for certain instruments in your project. Let's dive straight in. We've seen the Apply Playback Template dialog before. It comprises a list of available playback templates. The ones with a little factory icon are Dorico's factory defaults, which you cannot edit. Double-clicking a playback template will apply it to the project and close the dialog. However, you can also create your own here, either from scratch or by duplicating an existing one to use as a starting point. By way of demonstration, I would like to create a new playback template that uses Dorico's default sounds for some instruments. Let's say the Olympus Choir Micro for singers and Groove Agent SE for drum kits, and then Note Performer for everything else. This is easy to create from scratch, so I'll click Add Playback Template. This creates a new empty playback template and opens it in the Edit Playback Template dialog. There are some familiar controls at the top of the dialog for including some identification text. Let's give our playback template an easily recognizable name. Here, we can choose to apply a space template along with the playback template if we wish. Below that are the controls that we use to construct our playback template by adding endpoint configurations. At the bottom of the entries list are buttons to add endpoint configurations, either manual or automatic ones. Manual endpoint configurations are the ones you've created yourself. Automatic endpoint configurations are the ones that ship with Dorico, and also the one that installed with Note Performer if you have it. The general principle is that when looking to load sounds to which instruments can be assigned, Dorico looks at the first entry and checks to see whether it contains information about any of the instruments we need. If it does, it uses that endpoint configuration to load the necessary sounds, sets up the endpoints with the correct routing and expression maps required. If there are any instruments in the project that it doesn't have saved information about, then it progresses onto the next item in the list, and so on until all instruments have been assigned to a sound. As a result, it's always good practice to include a catch-all endpoint configuration as a fallback, such as one of the automatic defaults, so that sounds will definitely be loaded for all instruments in your project. In this example, we want some elements from those Dorico libraries I mentioned, and then everything else from Note Performer. So I shall use the Add Automatic button to select this full Dorico endpoint configuration, and then the Note Performer one. You can use both manual and automatic configurations together here. These are just the ones I need for this example. As I want to use some of the sounds from the Dorico libraries and then all others from Note Performer, I must make sure I add them in this order. In other words, the catch-all fallback configuration must be at the bottom. There are buttons to change the order if needed. Now, I need to filter this top item to apply only to singers and drum kits. Singers are an instrument family, so I can add them to this family overrides list. Drum kits are instruments, so I can use the instruments overrides list. Let's search for drum set. There are 2 kits here, and so I'll add both the basic and full versions. Let's just review what's going to happen here. When Dorico attempts to assign an instrument a sound, it will start at the top of the list and ask, is the instrument part of the singer's family? Or is it a drum set? If the answer to either of those questions is yes, it will use the sounds defined in this top entry. In the case of singers, that will mean the Olympus Choir Micro sound library. For drum kits, it'll use Groove Agent SE. All other instruments will pass through the filter onto the next item in the list, in this case, Note Performer. That's it. We can now press OK to save our playback template. Playback templates are saved outside of the current project, meaning they will be automatically available when you create a new project. I'm going to apply our new playback template to this new empty project. Let's try it out by adding some instruments. First, let's add a piano. The piano we'll use Note Performer for playback as expected. Now let's add a singer. How about a soprano? Once the sound is loaded, we can check play mode and see that it's using Hallian Sonic. And when we show the VST, can verify it's using the correct preset from the Olympus Choir Micro library. And finally, let's try a quick drum kit. And there you are, Groove Agent SE with the Life is Simple preset. And that's how to use existing endpoint configurations to create a playback template here in Dorico. I do hope you found this video useful. Please click the like button if you have enjoyed it, and consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell for alerts. I'm Anthony Hughes. Thanks for watching.